اقرأ.
وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله. اللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر آمين يا رب العالمين. Today's khutbah is dedicated to a number of ayats that belong to Surah Al-Najm, a very unique surah of the Quran. The surah begins by Allah describing the event of revelation itself. You guys, many of you are familiar that the first revelation to the Prophet ﷺ is mentioned in Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. That's much later on in the order of the Quran. But Allah describes the event, what happened then. Like all we have in Surah Iqra and Surah Al-Alaq is actually the quote from the angel Jibreel from Allah Azza wa Jal, word for word. That's the words that were said. But here in Surah Al-Najm, what you have is what was going on, Allah describing the scene itself. How did revelation come to the Prophet ﷺ? What was the experience like of seeing the angel Jibreel? And it then also describes the journey later on in his life that the Prophet ﷺ took along with Jibreel alayhi salam. So there's a number of things that are mentioned in the beginning of Surah Al-Najm, but then the surah actually transitions and it talks about the struggles people have to try to accept the call of the Prophet ﷺ. Now when we think of accepting the call of the Prophet ﷺ, we usually think of someone just taking their shahada, accepting Allah is one, accepting Muhammad as his messenger ﷺ. It's as simple as that. But there are other dimensions of accepting Islam. There are changes Allah wants to bring inside of a person. And these are some of the changes that Allah highlights that people are reluctant to bring into their life. And that's where the surah is almost towards an end. What are some changes Allah expects from people? This great revelation came to bring about a change. To bring about a change inside of me and inside of you. And some of those changes are very, very hard to make. They're not easy changes. Because we're comfortable in one place and we don't want to move from that place to another place. Right? So Allah will describe people now in these ayat that have a hard time changing. And I wanted to share this khutbah with you because you and I often can find ourselves in that place. We recognize what is wrong, we recognize what we need to fix, and we're having a hard time changing ourselves. Or we find ourselves disappointing not anybody else, but even ourselves over and over again, and not finding a way out from that cycle. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, أَفَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي تَوَلَّى. Have you seen somebody who turned away? The Prophet is being told to take note of somebody who doesn't listen to his message. And the most authenticated source ever given, Allah, and with the most authentic person, credible person ever, Rasulullah himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and yet somebody turns away. What could be going on in their head? You know, when somebody doesn't listen to a message, there could be two things wrong. It could be there's something wrong with the message, or maybe there's something wrong with how it was delivered, and it wasn't very convincing, and you're not convinced. But the other could also be that maybe there's something wrong with the person giving it. And you're like, I don't want to listen to this person. They have nothing good to offer me. Or I don't trust them. Or whatever it may be. Even if they have the best things to say. You could have a corrupt politician give the most convincing speech, but people don't want to hear it because he has no credibility. That could happen. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has the highest credibility. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with the speech of Allah. This is the best of the best. So when he's giving the message of Islam to his audience, there's really no rational reason left for people to walk away. There's no excuse left for people to say, well, what does he know? Or I wasn't that moved by the message. As a matter of fact, when the Quraysh, the most aggressive enemies of Islam, the most aggressive opponents of Islam, are describing the Quran as sihrun yu'thar, magic whose impact is left behind. The fact that they called it magic already tells you that they don't think this is something casual. They recognize this is something supernatural. There's something incredible that cannot be dismissed by some logical argument. So even they, in their dismissal, have to call it magic. That's actually an insult to the Prophet ﷺ, but understand that in that insult, there's also a compliment. They're recognizing the power of the Quran. By the way, when you call something magic, then you're saying there's something unseen, unexplained going on here that I can't quite put my finger on, but it's there. So in a sense, they've already taken a leap of faith. They've already believed in some level of the unseen when they say that. But regardless, Allah then highlights this is not, then why aren't they convinced? If they're willing to believe in the unseen and call it magic, why not just believe in Allah? I mean, if you're willing to believe in that and defy common sense and defy logic and take a leap of faith, why not take the right leap of faith? And so Allah then answers that question by saying, وَأَعْطَى قَلِيلًا وَأَكْدَى. This is highlighting one particular dimension of our personality that we have a hard time changing. He says about this person, he gives a little bit. What that means is he's charitable to an extent. وَأَكْدَى, then he slows down and قَطَعَ مِنْ عَطِيَتِهِ. He stops giving. This needs some attention. Allah is describing that human beings, even the ones who don't want to listen to anything about Islam, who don't want to hear what the Prophet has to say, they're also charitable people. They also feel like if they were asked to support some worthy cause, they would give to. They're willing to give and support something good, but that goodness, first of all, they can't give too much, because if they give too much, then there are other things they want to do that they don't want to stop doing. Their money is allocated for some other things. Allah put a consciousness inside of us. That consciousness is inside of an atheist, it's inside of a Christian, a Jew, a Hindu, all of them have it. If they see a child suffering, or even an animal suffering, they'll give. They'll support. Allah put that humanity inside of us. That's something all human beings share. So they do give. Charitability is there. But when it comes to, one way to interpret these ayat is when it comes to other good things, they hold themselves back. So that dimension of our goodness, you figure, well, yeah, you know, I do drink. I do this. I do the other. Like you make a list of all the bad things you do. But then you say, you know, I do help out though. I do support some good causes. And you feel that bad stuff that you're up to. And when it comes to other good things, he slows down. Others have interpreted this to mean I'm only going to give, but so much. So much that I don't feel bad anymore. Like, you know, somebody pulled up at a red light and a homeless person stuck their hand out. And you could stick your hand in your wallet and pull out a 20. Or you could look in the cup holder for some quarters. You have a choice. So you go for the quarters. At least I gave something, right? And you kept the 20 with you. So he gave to an extent, but then held himself back. But I really wanted to highlight the latter interpretation, and that is, you give, and you feel that now that you've given, you can slow down the other good things you're doing. This is good enough. I'm a good person. I mean, I give. That should be good enough. And then you appease yourself. You tell yourself a story in which you are, or I am, a good person. You highlight whatever little you do to yourself and say, you know what, I'm not that bad. I do this, this, and this. So what if I, mess up here and there a little bit? I minimize my mistakes, and I maximize in my mind the good that I do. الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد عباد الله رحمكم الله اتقوا الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون أقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتاب الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله هي صلاتي هي الفلاح قل قامت صلاة قل قامت صلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله صوت التواصل شجر القفص شتى stop الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين المؤمنات ثم لم يتوبوا فلهم عذاب جهنم ولهم عذاب الحريق. إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ذلك الفوز الكبير. إن بطش ربك لشديد إنه هو يبدئ ويعيد وهو الغفور الودود ذو العرش المجيد فعل لما يريد. هل أتاك حديث الجنود فرعون وثمود بل الذين كفروا بتكذيب والله من ورائهم محيط بل هو قرآن مجيد في لوح محفوظ. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا أيحسب أن لم يره أحد ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين فلقتهم العقبة وما أدراك ما العقبة فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة وتواصوا بالمرحمة أولئك أصحاب الميمنة والذين كفروا بآياتنا هم أصحاب المشأمة عليهم نار مؤصدة ومضة. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.